Hey guys, welcome back to the Space Agency. I'm Wandering Kid. While you guys were gone, I decided to spend some of our science. First thing I did was I bought Advanced Landing. I figured getting the Mark 25 drogue chutes wouldn't hurt, and these slightly lighter landing struts, which can take 12 meters per second impacts. Additionally, I picked up ion propulsion. These things are monsters for very light items. Their thrust is miserable, so don't expect to go anywhere fast, but they're nice pieces of equipment. I got these because I want rovers. I'm thinking I may drop off a rover or three at different planets, like Min-Miss Moon, things like that. And the reason for that is the survey missions that are on the ground for like temperature or seismic, when they're far apart, when they're close together, when they're stuck close together, their range is incredibly small. So one of the landers I recently sent up to Min-Miss to do temperature checking probably blew through, I want to say, 1,000 to 1,500 delta V, just bouncing from site to site to site. So rovers would be helpful. So we picked up Ion, and the final one I picked up was Advanced Metal Works, and that was to pick up the extra large girder, the docking port junior, and the radial attachment point. I figured to pick up the quadcoupler too while I was in there. So I've gotten you caught up on the important part since you last dropped by. Let's go get some Kerbals from the Ares Helm. All right, let's pick up a let's create a crew transport ship, shall we? Okay, so that's room for 10 Kerbals. That should be plenty. Now at this point, we just need to add in fuel and the like. Now each one of these parts has its own lift, so I gotta figure out what they are. So I've got about 2 units of lift already on this ship. It's already coming in at 15 tons. In theory, we've got all our fuel and everything already. So at this point, we just need to get ourselves up and running. So I'm going to change this around. Shorten the craft up a little bit. Okay, the monopropellant doesn't shift this much by itself, so I'm not going to worry too much about the monopropellant. Alright, now, let's get our necessaries attached. Alright. Coming in at roughly 20 tons plus wings. We're looking pretty tight. Now how's center of mass looking? Dan, I'm not worried about lift yet. Yes, worried about where center of mass is. Alright, let's get some wings on this thing. So we've got about 2 units of lift through the center. I need 18 units of lift. There, that should do nicely. Alright, now we just gotta get the sundry bits and pieces on. It's kind of tight, but it'll work. Alright, now, we've gone through all this, let's take a look at how center of mass behaves. I'm okay with this center of mass behavior. The only time we'll have a problem is if we drain off all the monoprop. Let's move everything back just a hair. Get a little more stability. So I got room for 8 Kerbals here in the center, 2 go in the cockpit, now various other ascendancies. Alright, final check. Center of mass, center of lift. We haven't moved it much, if at all. Good. Alright. Everybody out. I need a group for gear. Oh, you know what? I want lights for my docking point, don't I? Yes, yes I do. Gear lights, RCS, I need all of these. Alright, so I don't get to steal one of those groups for this. $78 parts, 20 tons. Two, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. By 18 by 20. This is almost a perfect build. I think. Alright, test flight of the crew runner. Alright, let's turn on lights for our gear. Ah! Oh, my lights face backwards. Great. SAS on. Thrust to full. Engines are burning. Nothing odd seems to be occurring. We have liftoff. Lights off. Fuel up. Seems reasonably controllable. Nothing's flapping. Alright, let's go rendezvous and let's go take this up and see how she flies. Starting to lose our engines at 23K. We're having a hard time keeping the engines aerated here. I don't think I've got enough intakes on this. What's my flow? Flow is 1.45, 0.35, 0.7. Yeah, I probably need at least 2 to 4 more structural intakes on this craft. Alright, so we're going to bring her down. Throttle it down, bring it in. Oh, we'll go for a landing test while we're here. So for anybody who's unfamiliar, there's an old runway out here on the island, just east of the KSC. I'm curious to see if it counts for parts recollection as 100% if you land there. That's if I land there. We're gonna see. This plane's a little tough to control. It doesn't have the pitch authority I want. We're gonna get there once I rebuild it a little bit, but I also don't know what height this runway is at, so this could get interesting. Figuring I may need RCS to help with the brakes. Oops. I didn't dump enough speed. So here's the old runway. Just kind of made it. So it's 134 meters for reference. Well, here, let's taxi around. Just in case some of you haven't seen this before. Let's turn steering onto the front wheel. Yeah, that was a little tight. You can climb this tower, actually, if you get out in the Kerbal, and you can go all the way up those stairways, and there's a little base up there. Nothing of significant interest, just kind of neat to do. Let's pull into a hangar. So this is the old abandoned island airbase, if you ever hear it spoken of. Slap the brakes on. And here we are. Pulled in. Alright, so this craft needs some adjustments. So the airbase is not considered part of KSC. I lost 3.5% of funds off the craft, but that's okay. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to do to this thing. So when we were screwing around up there, one of the things you saw was that my right engine, which was the first one I put on, was the first one to burn out. And that's because what happens is any air that this one doesn't use up goes to the next one. So when this one starts to burn out, this one's still able to pick it up. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put our first engine on the tail. Yes, I'm going to overpower this thing horribly. Now, structural intakes have an intake area of 0.0025 compared to a ram air, which is 0.01. The circular intake is 0.008, which is pretty close to the ram air, but not close enough. So it's 4 structural intakes per ram air. So I'm going to want 8 for the first engine. Okay, that is a tremendous amount of jet engine for this plane, just so you're aware. Now, we do need space engines. There. That will give us thrust in space. 80 newtons, not a lot, but it's more than enough for our purposes. Finally, I wanted more pitch authority up in the front. This, though, is going to require me paying attention to center of lift and mass. Okay, these won't work. They're in the way of my photovoltaic cells, and I'm having a problem getting the elevons to sit the way I want. Yeah, that should give me much better pitch authority. Now I'm just going to move the wings back here, back a bit. There, that looks a little better. Center of mass, center of lift. A little behind, we're good. You're acting like I have no fuel for this. Why? Or another, I torqued out all the fuel. Alright, it's acting like I'm not getting fuel to these thrusters. We're gonna go out to the runway and double check something. They do. Confirmed, we have no Kerbals. See if this works the way I expect it to. You're up. Oh, that's pitch authority. We're also holding altitude better as well. Yeah, this will fly a lot better. I probably don't need that much thrust. I'm gonna work off the atmospheric efficiency over here to determine when I need to apply more. My jets are starting to act like they want to do a burnout, and I'm getting a little turn out of them, and I don't know why. I have a flame out on the center engine. Okay, there we go. Now, if you're paying attention over here, you'll notice I started dropping a little vertical, but I'm still gaining horizontal, and my vertical's picking back up again. I had the angle of attack wrong there for a minute. Apparently I still want to be at about 15 degrees here. I probably nosed down at the 5 degrees too early. I need to bring this down, though. Oh, I have dual flameouts on the side, but the rear one is now working right. Okay, so that's an inconsistent flameout. But since they're flamed out, I'll just shut these engines down now. And this way I've only got one to worry about later. Now at this point, this is air hogging. I have 3 engines worth of intake air going to a single engine. Highest speed over land, 22-23. We have a Mockingbird. Alright, I think we're on the last setting for our throttle here before we start closing everybody up. That is a lot of intakes to close up. I don't think I'm even going to bother. I mean, seriously, 1, 2, 3, 4... Yeah, no. Action groups are my friend. God help me if I missed one on the way back. Alright, I'm going to kill the engines here. I'm going to shut that engine down. We're going to stage. Okay, so we are way ahead of Ares Helm, so we definitely want to get above it. Which we're going to. Significantly. So we'll put periapsis at about its orbit and we'll loop for a bit. $92K should work. Only costs us 45 meters per second. Okay, so how long do we expect this burn to take? Let's rev the throttles up. 9-second burn. Not too bad. So we've pulled in our crew runner next to Ares Helm. Now we just need to get our crew over. So let's turn our cabins. Alright, let's jump ships. Alright, let's start with Jeb, because he's going to fly home. You got ejected off the Mark 1. That's okay. Come on, Jeb. Turn on your RCS. There we go. Still straightened out. And you know what? While I do these crew transfers, I think I'll bring in the solar panels. I need to do that over on the other tub too, on Ares Helm. I know there's a door here somewhere. It's on the other side. Let's turn on your lights. That'll help. There we go. Here you go. Alright. So we're just gonna take care of our Kerbals here. So with the last of our Kerbals heading over to our ride, now we've got to start looking at heading home. Whoops. My bad. This is why you're supposed to slow them down. And with KSP finally turning into the dawn light, it's time for us to plan our land. So, we'll start off roughly about here. We'll break down. Want to bring that... Well, no, we're going to swing this around a bit. Backed up another node. There, that should give us a decent glide path. So 71.6 meters per second to deorbit ourselves. And the beginning of any landing is boring, so we'll probably speed this along. I think I brought this in a little too low. I'm going to try and hold some altitude so that I can get over the mountains. There's a reason in real life they don't put gear on the bottom of the space shuttle. Poof. You ever have one of those in hindsight moments? Like, maybe I should have put parachutes on this in case everything else goes to pot? Since every one of my main guys is in here? Now, normally I prefer to bring my approach in closer. I prefer to come in higher for a while so that I have less time to deal with actually flying. But in this particular case, I want as much time as I can. Because A, this is the ship's maiden flight. I'm not quite sure how she's going to handle. And B, I've got 5 major Kerbals on here. Alright, time to fish or cut bait. We're coming in. Come on. Can't quite get the runway lined up. There we go. Ah, a little off center, come on. Brakes on. Lights on. Alright, not my perfect landing, but it should be alright. There we go. And we're home safe. We'll recover this vessel, we'll bring in our Kerbals. Covered 7395 from the vessel. Rich Bull's got to level 1, GF got to level 1, and Bob got to level 1. So it cost me 500 roots to go up, get all the crew, and come back down. I'd say that's pretty efficient. Something like this could probably launch satellites pretty cheap, too. Just swap out the crew cabins for, what do you call it, storage base. And you can put your satellites in there and deploy them. Alright, next up. So the final piece of the Ares Helm to put up are the Ares Wolves, which I want to have a seismic accelerator on them. I'm still torn about the Mystery Goo and the map and the materials bay. I really am. 350 more kilograms, though, would pretty much wreck my Delta V. The other thing I want to do, though, is I want to change the top parachute. I want to turn it into a drogue. This way, hopefully we'll get some better slowdown out of that, and then these two can finish the necessary. It does free up, I think it just freed us up some extra Delta V. You're 0.2, oops. You're 0.3, so yeah, we got a little extra Delta V back. Always nice to have. I think I have made a decision. I have decided that I am going to give them extra shoots. Okay, that ripped off that extra Delta V I had, but hopefully it means I'll need less of it. Should also give me more of a safety margin on landing. There's nothing else overly particularly interesting here that I want to use. Okay. So let's get rid of the wolf. And this will actually be our final wolf. This will be what we launch. For the final time, we're going to rip these wolves off and put new ones on. So we have our two wolves hooked to our system that we want them on. Change our route to that node. Rip off the rest of the ship. Okay, so this is going to be our wolf launcher. The wolves together and their assembly weigh 9.1 tons. It's not too bad. We'll leave the docking port on the tail so that they have something to hook to. So in case I need to hook something to the rest of the ship, I've got one in the back, as well as on the front of the two main tanks. Lots of parts on this, but this shouldn't be too bad actually. As long as we can get it close, we should be able to tug it into position. Now, how are my docking ports are not aimed in the same direction, and that will annoy me. So spin you. There we go. All right. Now we need to launch. There, now I can see my actual Delta V. Alright, so we've got plenty to go around in space, and maybe even a little extra. Strip this sucker together. Okay, 5300 Delta V should be plenty. Don't mind having a bit more thrust at the beginning, though. Let's make it 3 of them. Everybody still strutted down? Yep. Okay, we look good. That's not good. I'm controlling from the wrong location. Let's control from there. There we go. Bring our throttle up. Ignite SRBs. Release docking clamps. Let's go to space. Yeah, we've got drag. The front of this ship does not want to go up. It really wants to go north. Let's see if rotating it helps any. Oof, this is a bit of a wild ride. I need more advanced SAS, I think. I'll just be happy with an apoapsis. Up you go. Alright, that's the end of our main sail. Let's get clear of that. Let's see if we can't time this a bit. So we pulled into the general area of the Ares Helm. It's time for us to lose our ride that brought us up here, which has 676 Delta V left. So plenty of fuel, even if it was a bit of a wild ride. Thanks for dropping in. Now what we're going to want to do is get the tug over to pick this up. I'm controlling from this node here, so it should be alright. I want to attach this piece to the station. So we're going to aim that anti-normal. Once I fire this next piece, it's completely up to the tug to get this thing in. Okay. Should be properly lined up. That's forward in theory. Say goodbye to the probe. Alright. Next batter. Alright, we're going to control from here. We're going to turn that normal. Eventually. Now we got to go grab it with the tug. So we will control from up here. We will undock. Before I do that, you know what? I'm going to grab some more monoprop. Looks like the Wolf launcher got itself rotated after one of the ejections. Have to figure out which way is the port I want. How are we looking? Yep. It's trying. There we go. We have a linkage. Too fast, I should have used the nukes. Oh, please don't take the station out on me. Oh, good, I missed. And hopefully at this speed they just bounce off each other, but still. Okay, there we go. And we have the wolves locked in. Almost straight, too. Sweet. Not perfectly, but that's what happens during station assemblies. We may have a bit of a bend. We'll deal with it. Now, we should get some crew up here so that they can run the manned landers. I also want to detach the space tug. So we're gonna detach the... do I want to detach the space tech already, or do I want to leave it around? Let's see. Somewhere out there is a half a tank of gas for him. Alright, we're going to get him a full tank of gas. Or full tank of monoprop. Somewhere around here is some debris I want. It's at the launch pad. Okay, that's the probe that we fired off. So the bit I want is that. It was right over there. We're going to grab that with the claw. Get ourselves a tank of fuel. I'm going to burn past it. Finally, got the little bugger. Give me your fuel. Thank you. Almost a full refuel on the tug. Excellent. Alright, so space tug is in a parking orbit. 75K. So now we have to decide who we're going to send up to the space station to take the space station for a ride and figure out who's getting in the Wolf. So Avi is currently flying out to solar space and coming back to find out just how much XP we can get from planting a flag on Moon, Minmus, and a solar orbit. Roger, Durham, Ribbon, and Edgus are dead. Okay, Jeb doesn't need to go. So really the question is who hasn't been a Minmus? So yeah, everybody... I think Jeb's the only one who's been to Minmus. Arkin's been to Moon. So really anybody but Jeb. Okay. We know it flies, we know it works. Just told you, Jeb, you're not the one going. Looks like Rich Bull's up in the cockpit. Bill loves to go everywhere, doesn't he? That's a pretty serious crew capacity we're about to send up. Space! 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 So after barely salvaging one of the worst flight profiles that I've ever seen, even Jeb was crying into his coffee back at Mission Control, and trying to do with these engines and the burnouts, I do not recommend you try and use this craft unless you are very good with SSTOs, which I'm not. And you are willing to risk everything in an Iron Man campaign, which apparently I was. But I did manage to salvage it by the skin of my teeth. Otherwise, I was probably going to be looking at coming back around for landing and trying the entire launch profile over again. I was playing with shutting off and turning on different boosters and seeing if I could make it work more intelligently. With control groups, maybe I could. But with the way this is right now, without control groups, no. Because really what you want to be able to do is switch over between the two and the single thruster easily when one of them burns out. But the third thruster is kind of a pointless thing anyway. Now, it's a shame that we can't get symmetric burnouts, and I'm hoping they fix that in the new Aero model that Harvester's building, but for some reason, I doubt he will. In the meanwhile, we're in space. Barely. So I've come up in a horrible position, and instead of screwing around with my orbits too badly, I've decided to stick myself out 4K from his periapsis and his apoapsis and just circle and let him catch me. Unfortunately, it's going to take at least 2 days for that to happen, so my crew's going to be hanging around up here for a bit. So, a couple of days in orbit and our raw time alarm. What I did was I went down to the Space Center, sped up time, and what happened was eventually our alarm kicked off and we're here. So in 4 orbits our distance goes to 4.1k. That's a pretty decent setup, so we're going to add that alarm and now we'll wait. So we're only 28 meters out from the Ares Helm, and we have a bunch of Kerbals to transfer. Now I have one of two choices. I can either attempt to dock off that point, or I can just transfer the Kerbals directly. I think I'll try and dock. Let's see how this works. So after a number of attempts and some confusion about how oxidizer and liquid fuel are going to behave, we're going to attempt a attachment one more time. We're docked. I can transfer some crew. Not the best plane in the world, not the most maneuverable, but it gets the job done. Barely. Alright, now let's transfer some crew. So after docking, we have confirmed there is no crew left inside of our plane. I'm going to see if we can't land our plane. So this plane has a number of other issues, one of which is the rear engine seems to not be able to get gas from the side tanks. Fuel flow is all sorts of off. Yeah, don't use the Crew Runner 2. It's a tragedy of design. But we are able to get it down. It did kind of perform what I needed it to, but I'll be building a new one, or at least redesigning this from the ground up. But that's going to have me sign off for the agency for today. Right after we get this down. There we go. Little rough landing, but we got there. So, I'll be signing off from the agency, and I will see you next time for our Ares Helm test to Minmus. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.